So basically then, so you have to ask yourself then, what are the factors then? If you have these gentrification pressures, rising land values, rising house prices, rising rents, you have to then think about what are the factors which help to prevent gentrification from occurring. And there are lots of different factors which might do this, but there are two key factors in my view. The first factor is that you have some sort of private rent controls, regulations, which means then that private sector tenants have got some sort of genuine security of tenure, plus that their rents in some way are stabilised, that the rents then, the rent levels are controlled. The point is then, like cities like Berlin and New York, which have got forms of different private rent control and regulation. And what this means then is it helps to stop the process of gentrification because it's in the material interest of private landlords to get rid of existing tenants, low income, low rent paying tenants, to get rid of those people and to then get in some new high income tenants. If the tenants have got greater security of tenure and if their rents are controlled, there is less capacity of private landlords to be able to do that, to be able to flip to be able to get rid of low rental tenants and to get in high rental tenants. So it helps to prevent the gentrification process occurring. So that's one mechanism. And you can see this in Berlin, you can see this in New York. The other mechanism, the other key buffer against gentrification is the provision of social rental housing. Because what it does is subsidise housing provided either by the state or by some third sector organisation. It takes the housing out of the market. So, in other words, what you're building in is little enclaves of socialism, if you like, in a capitalist city. So, and both of these two mechanisms, private sector rent control and social housing, it then facilitates low-income people to stay in a city which is otherwise gentrifying. Now, London has got a particular set of problems. The first problem is that unlike Berlin and unlike New York, it has very little private sector rent controls and regulation. So what this means then is that because most tenants in London, they're on assured short-haul tenancies, the private landlords after 6 months or 12 months, they think, okay, so, I can get rid of this person at the end of their tenancy, when their tenancy expires. And I can put the rent up by 10, 20, 30%, whatever it is. And there's nothing to stop them. It's perfectly legal to do that. The tenant doesn't have to do anything wrong at all. All they have to do is simply that the tenancy expires. And at that point, then the landlord can put up the rents and get rid of the tenants and get somebody else in who's going to pay more top dollar, basically. So, but London doesn't have any rent control. So what you have then is galloping inflation in the private rental market, very little security of tenure, and if you have gentrifying processes, this lack of regulation then is simply facilitating the gentrification. It's in the interests of landlords to have higher rents, which brings about gentrification. Now, so if London doesn't have this private sector rent controls and regulations, it only has social housing. It's a one-club golfer. But as I said earlier on, what's happened is that the long-term supply and the long-term amount of social housing has been declining for the last 35 years. So you have an inevitable process in which poor people or lower income people in London find it very difficult to live in gentrifying areas because the housing which could have facilitated their capacity to remain in London is shrinking. As it shrinks, it makes then gentrification become more prominent. And really, in many parts of London now, the key thing, which is helping to still, to some extent, we still have social housing, but it is being shrunk. The thing which really helps to, as I said, facilitate the capacity of low-income people to stay in the city, is precisely social housing, including council housing.